on? What's good, Raider Nation? Welcome back to Vegas Nation First and 10. Your go-to for Raiders news and analysis, breaking news, as it were. And that's certainly the case today. Before I bring in my great co-host, by the way, I'm Vinny Bonsignore with Vegas Nation. Before I get to my great co-host, Adam Hill, also from Vegas Nation, just want to remind everybody that all Vegas Nation podcasts, including First and 10, are brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Station Casinos STN Sports. And we thank them for all that support. Well, no rest for the weary, Adam. Raiders just wrapped up the season on Sunday in a loss to the Los Angeles Chargers, but it feels already like the next season is already beginning. Monday or Tuesday morning, Antonio Pierce fired. Thought for a second or two that Tom Telesco was safe, although I also heard that maybe we'll see how that all plays out. And certainly today, the other shoe for Tom Telesco anyway fell. He was just fired within the hour or so of us taping this podcast. So no Antonio Pierce, no Tom Telesco. It sure looks like the Raiders are wiping the slate clean, and I think that the hand of Tom Brady is huge in all this. I know that for a fact. So Tom Brady, buying 5% of the team a few months ago, it was never about how much he was buying. It was the influence that he was getting as a result, and it's going to be huge. I think, Adam, we're already seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's a lot of enthusiasm of what Tom Brady can do in terms of the actual hires, but it's the I don't know the exact phrase to use, but it's you can take the kid out of wherever, but you can't take the whatever out of the kid. Like, it's still the Raiders, and even though it's Tom Brady and it's going to be, I think a lot of people encouraged by what he's going to do in terms of who he's hiring. You still have to have the messiest of the firings of any team in the league. Like, somehow you have to figure that out because you're the Raiders. So that's what they do. And they trot Antonio Pierce out there to do a press conference and then
I
fire
don't
him the
even
next
care
day.
about that. That's just, I mean, every divorce, every breakup is going to be a little bit messy. I think Mark wanted to give Antonio a chance to articulate his case moving forward. Gave him that one chance, didn't like what he heard, and moved on. I don't make a big deal out of that. And every breakup is a little bit messy. It's never going to be perfect.
Sure.
The question,
I don't make a big deal of it.
the
The
challenge is
only
just get it
reason,
right. That's what I get
sure,
it right for once.
sure.
I don't care about any of that. Get it right. That's what they should only be focused on at this point.
That's the hope, but you do think like it's just not. It looks messy from the outside. It looks messy, and whether
What are
you
you
think
going
it
to
is
do?
or not, or whether it matters or not, I don't think it necessarily
It
matters.
doesn't.
But it looks very, very messy, and
That's
I
fair
think
enough.
you have people saying, "Well, same old Raiders." Now
Hmm.
the difference is, can they get it right? As you said,
Yeah,
that's what matters
exactly.
in the long run. In 2 years, nobody's going to remember how this
At
happened. They're
all.
going to remember, but for right now, everybody's you bring Brady in, but it's the same team, it's the same organization. They have no idea
That's
what they're doing.
it's interesting. The sense that I'm getting from people that not media, not fans, people in the NFL are more like it was almost bound to happen. Does it look great? No, not necessarily. But this was probably the direction that it was always going to go in, whether it was going to be this year or next year. But I think that Tom Brady and Mark Davis have figured out, like, why even wait? Let's just get on with getting it on in terms of kind of building this in Tom Brady's image. So there was a little bit of deliberation going on. It probably didn't look good in certain quarters. But at least the people that I talked to are like, it doesn't matter, just get it right from this point on. And that's really what the focus is going to be on.
Sure, and I mean, there probably are going to be people that if you don't have a relationship with Brady, look, Brady is he's gonna fix a lot of those things. I would imagine, as long as he's in the interviews and he's
Yeah.
talking to people. But these are the kind of things normally that somebody would look at and say, I don't know if I want to go. Like, it's the same organization. Why would I be a part of that? Tom Brady will have to be the one to smooth those things over and say, no, it's not. We're going to do this. We're
Yeah.
going to do things differently. We're going to figure this out. And you have to imagine that he can. It's going to bring up more questions of how long can he continue to do this broadcasting thing? And man, it's going to be messy next week if he's calling a Lions game and he's interviewing the
Here's
coordinators
another thing
for
I'll
a job.
say. Another thing that I'll say that somebody from the NFL told me today was, there's already some conversations that are going on. I know that we're going to be talking to Ben Johnson tomorrow on Friday, but there's already been conversations, maybe not directly to the player or to the person, that they're going to be talking to, whatever candidate that is. But there's agents involved. There's people that are involved, and I do get the sense, at least from people that I talk to, the sense that they were getting from some of the candidates was I'd really, if I'm going to be, and it was probably multiple. So that's probably another reason why they did this. Like, look, if I'm going to come, if I'm going to really take this seriously, I kind of want to come in with my own general manager, my own, a like-minded personnel guy that I'm going to, be working with. And I think they were getting that message from certain people, maybe even Ben Johnson. And instead of waiting to do that a month from now, just said, you know what, if that's what we're getting now, and if that's going to be the impediment, impede us from getting a guy that we want as the head coach, let's just go ahead and nip that at the bud, take care of it right now, and start the before we interview one candidate. And that first interview is going to probably be tomorrow. They may have talked to somebody by now. That's not that we haven't heard about. We're trying to keep up as much as possible. But if that's the intel that they're getting, that could have driven their decision as well. Let's just go ahead and cut ties now and start this thing with the clean slate.
Sure, and you're right there. That's the issue with the Jaguars, right? And that's the other team that has been
Exactly.
very messy. The other team that's been very messy in this situation was the Jaguars, who kept their GM like the Raiders did, and then basically said, as long as the new coach is cool with it, and if not, then hey, we'll fire him. Like that's equally
But
as goofy
let
and
me
silly.
real quick. When I covered the Rams, everyone assumed that Les Snead was going to be out when they, in 2016, in 2017, when they went to replace Jeff Fisher. There was this assumption that eventually they're going to hire a new coach and Les Snead is going to be out, right? That was I could go back and call up the articles right now. But as it turns out, when they went through the interview process with the head coach, um, Sean McVay, he was part of that process, even though he was not guaranteed of coming back. It was kind of a weird situation, but as it turns out, he and Sean McVay completely hit it off, and like instantaneously, it was this can work. So they
Sure.
stuck with Les Snead. So theoretically, in Jacksonville, even though I'm a little bit dubious on how that's all going to work out, maybe that is what happens with their future head coach and Trent Baalke as the general manager. So
Sure.
there's different ways to look at it, and I wouldn't necessarily say one is messier than the other. It's just sometimes how the dynamics work a little bit. But I do think that the Raiders, and I wouldn't also, we reported that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had a conversation recently, and I thought, from what I've been told, it was more of a fact finding, try to help out a little bit, kind of a conversation. And maybe Bill Belichick also said, look, you're probably going to be running into some problems if you don't have that general manager thing taken care of first too, alongside it. So those conversations also drove them in this direction.
Sure. But yeah, it's more just, you look at, even though the Patriots are kind of a mess right now, you look at what they did and say, okay, like that's how you handle these kind of things, and it's how it's traditionally been done. Either way, what
Yeah,
matters now is who they get.
yeah.
And to your point, if they are looking at Lions coordinators, which they are, I would imagine Ray Agnew is the guy at the top of the list in terms of who they would bring in. Ray Agnew, the assistant GM for the Lions, has done a great job there and helping build them. I'm sure if you're going to talk to Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn, I imagine Ray Agnew is going to be somebody who absolutely gets a look as well as somebody who could work with them and come in with them. Not that it's necessarily a straight package deal, but you would imagine that would be somebody that's there. I will say that of the people that I texted, everybody just sent back the same name. The new GM is John Spytek. So
From the
we'll
Tampa
see.
Bay
I don't
Buccaneers,
from the Tampa Bay
a
Buccaneers.
colleague of Tom Brady's, and
Sure, and
or a former teammate. Yeah.
when he's the assistant GM now. He was a
Yes.
player. He was a player personnel guy then when Brady was there. He's now since been promoted. But they said, yeah, John Spytek, that's the guy. That's who Brady's going to bring in. So
Heard
that's
that too.
certainly a name to watch on the list as well. And then, I mean, who knows what the situation is now? But Ed Dobbs has been a finalist the last two times they've looked for a GM. So maybe that's a name they go with again to look in that direction. So there's gonna be all kinds of candidates, and maybe it's gonna be, hey, we're gonna decide who the coach is, and then see who he wants to work with as a GM. That's possible as well. Maybe they have a GM in mind, and they're gonna bring a GM in and say, hey, he's gonna be part of the coaching interview process. I doubt it, but that's possible as well. But I think there's a lot of different things that could potentially, a lot of directions that could potentially go now. But what's done is done, and whether it was goofy or not, or handled well or not, like it doesn't matter when they hire the new guy.
It really doesn't. We've been doing this a long time. That it's just it's again. There's no perfect way to do this, and there is always some level of discomfort and awkwardness and all that. But you know the big thing, as we've been stressing, is they got to get it right. They can't afford to stay on this ramps or hamster wheel that they've been on for so long and really decades now. They've got to get off of that. They've got to create some stability. I'll also say this: Pete Carroll, who I know is a person of interest as well. He's somebody that likes to have a heavy hand in personnel. So that some back channeling. Again, I think they've gotten the consistent message from candidates that they would like to be come in at the same time, at the very least, as the new general manager, to kind of be aligned on that from the very get go. All right, so I think
I would also point out just as we're discussing this, like that has been the problem in Tennessee. So people have followed Tennessee from afar. It's been a back and forth the last couple of years where it was all right. Vrabel's in there. They bring in a GM and they don't get along, so they pick Vrabel, and Vrabel stays. The GM goes, and then the next year,
yeah,
Vrabel and the GM aren't getting along. We can't work together, so it's okay. We're going to pick the GM over Vrabel. This year, GM and coach butt heads again, and they pick the coach over the GM. So it's just been a rotating. Okay, you should get rid of
exactly.
that guy. Try to find the right mix. So I mean, the name Vrabel, who has obviously been bantied about some, um, he knows all about these kind of situations where the GM and the coach aren't on the same page. So that's a situation where you can look at from afar and say, this is maybe what happens when the coach and GM aren't aligned. They've had to replace one or the other every year.
All right, Adam. I think we're going to brace ourselves for. I would imagine this is going to probably move. There's going to be a lot of news over the next week, 2 weeks or so. But I don't expect any kind of a decision to happen anytime soon. There's a lot of rules and regulations that you have to work with in the NFL. I would suspect. Um, well, I wouldn't even say that because I do think Pete Carroll is going to be and Mike Vrabel are going to be prominent. And that's the other name to keep in mind too. Mike Vrabel, Tom Brady are pretty close. This could all be sort of to grease the wheels for that as well, in terms of getting everybody aligned on the same page. Tom Brady, Mike Vrabel, and the new general manager, so I'm not going to say that this is going to take all the way till after the Super Bowl because if Mike Vrabel or Pete Carroll is the choice, they don't have to wait until after that to make this all happen. So, what's your gut feeling on a timeline?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, they can't interview, as you mentioned, there's guys like Pete Carroll and Vrabel who they can interview all they want and bring them in and talk to them. Coordinators for teams like the Lions can do Zoom interviews right now. But as of what, tomorrow? I think that's
As
the
of the end
last
of the
day.
weekend.
Uh, okay, yeah. So they only have a couple days where they can do that, and then they're back into playoff mode. So it's a weird process in terms of who can talk, who can't. The rest of the candidates who are involved in wild card games really can't do anything, and if they get eliminated, then you can talk to them going forward. But
January
um,
27th.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting just to see exactly what directions they want to go in and what those dates line up being. Because if it's somebody that they want and they're not involved in anything, move very quickly. And if it's not, it
Exactly.
might end up being a very long process.
Right, exactly. So it'll be fascinating. We're going to be here every step of the way. I'm Vinny Bonsignore with Vegas Nation. That's Adam Hill with Vegas Nation. We thank you for your support. Stay in tune at vegasnation.com because it's moving fast and furious, as Adam and I have discovered the last couple of days. But we're used to this, right, Adam?
Yeah, I did. And by the way, taking a break from my mock draft preparation that'll come out Sunday for those that are still interested in the draft and not focused on the coach and GM. Taking a break from writing that to write up some GM candidates. So it's back and forth. You got to be nimble in this business and
Exactly.
be ready. So that's where we're at.
Bring your catcher's mitt, your first base glove, and your outfielder and infielder glove because
Yep.
you're going to have to do it all around here, which we
Maybe come out
totally
of
love as
maybe
part
come
of
out of the
the.
bullpen. Come out of the bullpen too.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, Adam. Take care. For everyone else, we'll be back at some point. I'm sure we're going to have some surprise podcasts to kind of fit the swirling tides here with all the news. So we'll be back at you. We'll be talking to you here pretty soon. Thank you to the Las Vegas Review Journal. Thanks to Heidi Fang and thanks to Station Casinos, STN Sports.